would say you got to win a playoff series. Like that's what I would think you would have to do. I think in order for this to be successful, you need to see them win a playoff series and you need to see them compete hard in the second round. I think that you saw each year, last year and the year before, it's like you're so close. You're getting there. You're getting there. So like what do you do now? You have to win. You have to win a playoff series. You have to go deep into the playoffs. So that's what I would say would be kind of like ultimately, all right, that's success. You saw what you had. And now you can continue to regroup and figure it out so you can go deeper into the playoffs.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzer with you, the voice of NBA Jam. From top journalists and authors to rising influencers and insiders, Hoopsology brings you the voices driving basketball forward. With elite guests and sharp analysis, Matt, Justin, and Alan keep you plugged into everything hoops. From downtown, boom shakalaka.
We have a big tradition on our show. We talk about basketball culture, what makes the game of basketball so great. So take this question any way you want it. What is your first or favorite basketball memory?
Oh my God. Okay. My favorite basketball memory is probably watching my cousin Satara play when she played at UNC Chapel Hill. That has got to be probably my favorite memory. We're super close. And my family, we would all go to UNC and we would all watch her and like everyone would come down and then we would all go out to eat after. So yes, that's probably my favorite memory is just like watching her play.
Can you talk about the basketball culture at UNC? Like just for those, I mean, Matt and I, we're from Albuquerque, New Mexico, went to University of New Mexico. I mean, huge basketball history with the pit and everything, but it's UNC. For those of our audience that may not be aware of just the importance and just the history surrounding UNC, can you enlighten our audience of just how important just that basketball culture is?
Yeah, 2 words, Michael Jordan. UNC basketball is just legendary. The culture is amazing around it. I was so blessed to be able to like go and be a part of it at such a young age and then be a part of it as a student athlete there as well. It's something where like you grow and you connect with the players, the team, the staff. I mean, you love everything about UNC basketball. That is Carolina. Roy Williams is an icon. Dean Smith. I mean, it's just one of those things where you always go back and you feel like you're home. That's the one thing I would always say. Even if you're like brand new to this, you feel at home. It's weird. It's just this comfy feeling where you just feel included and you can act the craziest. You can act like a madman and everyone is like, yeah, like do it. But I mean, we've just had so many great people come from UNC basketball and it's just still a place where you talk about it. It's always going to be talked about. That's the thing. It's a school that's always going to be in the news, in the media. I'm so excited of what's happening right now for them. And yeah, no, UNC basketball is the best.
And what did it feel like when Duke came to town every year?
It's amazing. The rivalry is insane. So one year they didn't come because of ice and shirts were made for that, saying that like, I forgot how far away. It's like 6 miles or something like that. It's very close. And so they made shirts saying like still couldn't come to UNC for a game. The rivalry is intense. Even now, the guys that, are on our team for the Magic, we'll talk about those things. I'll say like, oh, did you see Duke lost today? Like just curious if you knew Duke lost today. The rivalry is insane. It's one of the best rivalries in the country in sports and in general. I will say that. I will go to my grave saying that it's one of the best rivalries in college sports and sports in general. And yeah, whenever Duke came into town, whenever you went to go see the Crazies over at Cameron, it's just, it just fuels your fire. NC State was never a rival, and I always get mad when people say that. It's not a rivalry. Like, it's not. It's Duke and UNC.
Totally makes sense. Let's shift to the Magic. They're currently 6th place. I think when I really wrote this, it was 7th place, but there's been a bunch of games today as we're recording of this podcast, so they're 6th, 23-19 in the East. Overall, we're recording this on MLK Day. What is your expectations of this team so far? Have they met them? Are they a little bit disappointing? I mean, it's really close in the East. I mean, you just see where the games are. I mean, you can see where things can change dramatically in just a couple of days. So just because they're currently in 6th doesn't mean that they're necessarily having a terrible season. What is your feeling on this team so far?
I think the thing is that like before you entered into the season, you saw the shift of where basketball in general was going. And so much of it before was on defense. But then you look at the West and what they're doing, and their scores are in bunches. It's crazy. So then you think, all right, you have to now on the East kind of like level up to that and find a way to get your offense going. And so I think what you're seeing with this Magic group is that like they're really figuring it out still. We had injuries going on. You had Paolo out, then you had Franz, then you had Mo Wagner out. So I think now is when you're actually going to start to see what this team was supposed to be maybe throughout the first half of this season. I think that's where we look at things now. So I wouldn't say I'm disappointed in how they've handled this season. I think that they've just dealt with adversity. One thing that I will say that I think showed maturity was how they've handled adversity, which last year there was so much of it because so many guys were injured. Going into this year, it wasn't really like, oh, it is next man up. It was, all right, bet someone's got to step up. So like Anthony Black has stepped up tremendously for the Magic since Jalen's gone out. So I think I would say where they're at right now, and according to stats, the Magic have, I think, like the best schedule to help them win more games. I think if anything, you're looking at it as like, all right, right now, and maybe I would even say after All-Star break is when you are really going to want to see the Magic turn things up into high gear. And so I think right now I would say that I think they're where they're supposed to be. I think that they are, like you just said, it ebbs and flows so much with so many games and how the East is so matched up. But I think that you're going to see now with the guys being healthy, a different side of this team for sure.
With all that said and kind of that nice snapshot that you gave us there, what would you consider like a successful season for the Orlando Magic this season? Because I think that's something in my mind that's a little bit tough to place.
I would say you got to win a playoff series. Like that's what I would think you would have to do. I think in order for this to be successful, you need to see them win a playoff series and you need to see them compete hard in the second round. I think that you saw each year, last year and the year before, it's like you're so close. You're getting there. You're getting there. So like, what do you do now? You have to win. You have to win a playoff series. You have to go deep into the playoffs. So that's what I would say would be kind of like ultimately, all right, that's success. You saw what you had. And now you can continue to regroup and figure it out so you can go deeper into the playoffs next year.
So is that the general feeling of the fan base in terms of what their expectations are? Do they have like more sky high expectations?
Oh, I
They
mean,
want
their
a title or
expectations-
buzz.
I mean, like, yeah, win a title. Like, that's the expectations. And I would say that too. It's like, yeah, you want to see this team win a title. Why not? Like, at the end of the day, why not put the Magic in this group? I mean, you have such great talent in the mix of everything. And again, like, you get everyone healthy. I think they're a dangerous team for sure. So Magic fans are for sure, I think, going to say like, we want to win a championship. And I would want to see them too win a championship. I think you just got to be realistic of what's going on right now of like how everything is going. You bring in 2 new assistant coaches. That's an adjustment. You bring in a slew of new players, including the rookies. So 2 new guys, including the rookies. That's an adjustment. You bring in Mo Wagner, who was out like more than a year because of his ACL tear. That's an adjustment. So like, I guess I say, yeah, I would love it if like after All-Star break, we can say like, oh yes, the key is to win a championship. That is always the goal. And I think the best goal too is to take it one step at a time and win a playoff series. So Magic fans for sure want to see a championship be in Orlando.
And it seems like right now is kind of where you set the bar for the season, given everything that's gone on for the Magic. Like a little bit difficult to judge success versus not success up to this point, but with people coming back into the lineup that we were hoping would be there all along, now is kind of the start point for the season in a weird way for the Magic.
Yeah, I think, yeah. It's crazy to say that, right? But it's one of those things of you have to figure out how to maneuver when injuries strike a team. And I think it was hard because you have a guy like Mo Wagner, who is literally the energy for that team, and Jalen Suggs, who they provide so much spark for that squad. So it's hard when you don't have that spark consistently. I would agree with you on that of, it does feel like you're a little bit starting over. I think when you saw them play in like the Germany and play in Germany and in London, you're kind of like, all right, like, okay, all right, game 1, let's go. So it's just hard. But I think also you've seen a lot of these young guys step up, and you've seen, players really just grow consistently. So I'm looking forward to how they handle everything when everything gets back to normal, I guess you could say, how it all is handled, and how like the bench coming off, that second unit and that third unit, when they come off, how much of spark they can give, when you're not necessarily starting them, and then you don't have that spark as well.
Absolutely. One of the things about the Magic, too, over the last couple of years, they've been, of course, a phenomenal defensive team. And that really, I think, is kind of unique when you see those teams that I call them, like, in a good way, like try hard regular season teams. Like, you can see that hustle and that energy in, even if it's like a Tuesday night in San Antonio and maybe not a nationally televised game or something like that. I'm wondering, do you see any signs of fatigue in kind of carrying that identity as a defensive team this season?
No, I don't think you see fatigue. I think that's been their identity. That's what they want to stand on. I think what you're seeing is real-time adjustments. Because like I mentioned, it's the whole thing of like, all right, you're a great defensive squad. Like, you understand that's your identity, that's your principles, but now you got to see the shots go in. So I think more so now you're seeing it as like, how do we adjust to make sure that we have the high flying offense that you're seeing that can compete with like a West? And I think that's kind of the idea of what you're seeing with this team. I think that they will always have to lean on their principles of defense no matter what. You have a really good offensive day and you think you can lean on that. But obviously, as you can tell, like, this is a team that Coach Mosley has said, no, this is your foundation. So I think that's what you're seeing. I don't think it's fatigue. I think it's more just like real-time adjustments and like having to figure out how to play with, the new ideas and the new plays and the executions of what they want to go and how they want to be that competitive team when it comes to the playoffs.
Definitely. Yeah, I always like to check in about that because the league is so offense heavy nowadays and over really the last decade, that I sort of subconsciously, I think, root for teams like the Magic that establish that defensive identity, because there are times during the season where it almost feels like a novelty to watch the Magic play or any other teams that are bringing that level of intensity.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think that that's what's amazing about them. But you also now have to compete with this day and age of basketball.
Yeah.
I think that's just, I think that's just what it is. If the Magic could continue to just live on their defensive side of the game for the rest of their lives, I'm sure that would be like, sure, why not? And then you wouldn't add guys like Desmond Bane, and you wouldn't add guys like Tyus, and you wouldn't bring in a really offensive heavy assistant coach, and you wouldn't bring in another assistant coach that's fairly good with point guards. Like, you wouldn't do any of that, But I think you're just seeing the wave of what's happening in the league right now. And I think that I just go back to, you see what's happening in the West, and you see how like teams are like, all right, if we want to compete with like an OKC every night, and if we want to compete with like an LA, and if we want to compete with like good teams over there who are just like deep in their bag, we got to figure that out as well, but still keep that defensive mind. So I think it's hard. I think that it's just the times though, and you just have to go with what's happening in the times.
So with their defensive identity, right now I'm looking at the standings. I think the Sixers, the Raptors have been a huge surprise. The Knicks, Celtics, and the Pistons. Which one of those teams pose the most difficulty for the Magic? And which teams do you think the Magic are clearly better than or ahead of them, you think?
I think one of the group, what's funny is like the rival should be, Miami, because they're down the street. But as of late, you're seeing the Knicks become that. I mean, whenever we go to MSG, it's like a bloodbath. Like, it's crazy. It's just like one of those things where like you feel intense too. Like, you're just like, I feel like I'm about to be in a playoff game. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the energy of two very young teams, very much understanding who they are, what they do, and their identity. But I would say that, a team that has given the Magic a tough, they've done really well against the Knicks, but I would say that's one team that, I love for the Magic to go against, because it's going to be a good battle between them. We haven't seen Milwaukee recently. We haven't seen Milwaukee yet. So, that's still up in the air of like how they would go. Rondo was the one that I thought that you could be like, all right, they're sneaky good, but they're a team that I think is that the Magic are better than, for sure. Toronto's they've just figured it out though, them. And I think the Charlotte Hornets, those are two teams I think that the Magic are better than. But I would say, even with Toronto still up in standings, I would say those two teams, their record doesn't reflect how well they've been playing lately.
So with the Knicks, it's interesting you bring that up because they have history, not only recently, but certainly in the 90s as well. Does that kind of factor, like getting an old school 90s history, or do you think it's kind of in the now in terms of this kind of rivalry? And can you point to just the New York Knicks fans in particular? I mean, have you had run-ins with them? I know they're a different breed compared to other fans within the NBA.
Yeah, I don't know if any of our guys really could be like, oh yes, the history of, the Knicks back in the day. That's why, I think it's just like, one, they come to Orlando heavy, all the snowbirds are in Orlando. They come to this game. That's one game that you can say, the Knicks will pack. They will buy those tickets and they will be in Orlando for that game. So yes, you get into the run-ins. They are loud, they are aggressive in like a sense of they're just cheering for their team, they are definitely like into the game. And I don't know, again, I think it's because I think each team they're very good at what they do, like defensively. And I think they're really good they just know their identity and they know what they can bring to the table. It's wild. Like I said, like every time we go, it's one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I'm about to watch a playoff series. Like it's crazy the way that they just go against each other. Someone's always getting hurt in this game. But it's really good. Like it's just I kind of want to see it later on. So, they just go at it really well.
Kendra, you brought up Desmond Bane earlier. How has that fit been this season on the team? What are you seeing from him? And just again, a very offensive heavy player. You mentioned like kind of keeping up with the West arms race with scoring. Desmond Bane was brought in for the Magic. What are you seeing so far from him?
I think it's also an adjustment period for him in the beginning. I think now things are smooth. I think, the only player he had not played with was Mo Wagner because Mo was out. So we got to see that when he played Sunday, like a couple Sundays ago against the Pelicans. So it was like that was a moment too where you're like, oh, okay, like everyone now has played again with each other. He's definitely been someone that if he's not able to find his shots at the three, he'll find a way to score for you. And I think that's been such a helpful part for this team is the way and his ability to score and the way he's taking shots. I think he's just been a really good addition, not just on the court, but as a person as well. I remember listening to I think we were just like all walking to the bus one day. And I think I think him and like a couple of the guys were talking about how like he had stayed back to kind of work out with, like Mo and work out with some of the guys. And I was like, that alone, I think speaks volumes of just not like the player he is, but the character he is and understanding like, I want to help my brother out and I want to, be with him and work out with him. So I think he's just done a really good job of also instilling so much information in the young guys. He's taken in Jace, he's taken in AB, like so many of the young guys, he's also been able to just kind of speak, what he sees, what he knows. This is a guy that has, seen, like you just mentioned, like the arms race with the West. He knows what it takes. He knows what it takes, and he knows what it takes to win night in, night out in the West. So to bring that to the East, I think is really big. So he's just been a good asset for the team for sure.
And I think I'd follow that up with, Paolo being the primary playmaker for such a long time for that team. I mean, basically right when he was drafted coming in there. And we've just seen in the playoffs, that's so hard to do when you have sort of one focal point on offense. How are you seeing Paolo and Bane working together? Like is Bane sort of like a relief for Paolo on the offensive end?
I would say that's exactly what I think that is. I think because here's the thing, Paolo, I think, is still trying to figure out what's going to happen when he is double teamed, because he is like, that's just what it is now. Like teams are definitely vying for him and figuring out how he can continue how to contain him. So I would say that Desmond is definitely that relief. And I think that Desmond would say Paolo's that relief as well for him. I think that they both really work well together. In the beginning, I think you kind of are like, okay, how do they do it? Like how will this happen? But they've found a way to make it happen, and they found a way to help each other out So I would agree with that statement for sure. And it's allowed Paolo to kind of work on other aspects when it comes to like maybe rebounding and assisting and really just kind of like being a driving force on the court and facilitating. So I think that's helped him in his game as well.
Awesome. And also have to ask, since this team is getting rolling, all getting together, building that chemistry now at this point in the season, do you anticipate a lot of noise from the Magic at the trade deadline? I mean, maybe it's sort of an obvious question, maybe an obvious answer, but just curious what you're seeing and hearing.
I know nothing. I go into work every day and I just sit there and smile. So I know nothing. I think, the Magic organization is going to do what they need to do to continue to grow their brand. And whether that's, go out there or whether that's continuing to invest in the guys that they have, I think that's just kind of what they're going to do and figure out, what makes sense for the organization. So your girl knows nothing. I just smile and wave.
Gotcha. I'll put it this way then, given nothing, so nobody take anything. I mean, for myself, I'll state I would be pretty surprised to see big deals come in and out of Orlando. Would you feel the same way if they made a big trade? Would that be pretty shocking?
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime you make a huge trade or you make a trade in general, it's like shocking. So yeah, I think if that was to happen, it would be shocking. And I think it was shocking this summer to see Des come here. And I think anytime you do something or shake things up, it's always going to be shocking.
Absolutely. Also, curious, I've been dying to talk about this on the podcast. And you're in the Southeastern Division there. What were your initial thoughts when you heard the news about Trae Young being moved?
Oh, I figured that. So I think it was just a matter of when. We were talking about it actually in DC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we were talking about it in DC literally, I think like the day before it happened, either a day or 2 days before it happened. Because of course we had seen everything. And then I think we were just kind of like, wouldn't it be interesting? Like, I think that'd be interesting if like he ended up like in DC. And like, I think we were just kind of like joking around about that and talking about it. And then when it came out, we are like, all right. If anything, I think that CJ got the best trade deal out of this whole thing. I think that he kind of wins this race. And I think that, for Trae, it's definitely going to be an adjustment of, redoing everything essentially, like bringing that fresh start to them. But yeah, I think CJ won in that one.
Totally agree.
So for the rest of the NBA, has been any other surprises that has kind of caught your attention? I mean, this has been a season, I think, of this transition. LeBron, that the All-Star stars were named today. LeBron did not make that list. I think we're seeing a paradigm shift in terms of seeing newer stars within the league. Has there been anything that has surprised you or has fallen on the radar that fans maybe haven't really seen, but you think it's going to be a big story as we head into the second half of the season?
Oh, I think these rookies are just insane this year. I mean, the way that they have been able to play, when you talk about like VJ, you talk about like Khan, you talk about like, I think these rookies are really, really acting like 5-year vets. And I'm loving it. I think that's been just kind of what I've noticed are these younger guys. I think the next generation and the younger guys, that's what's been really impressing me, because it's like normally you don't talk about these things until maybe year 2. But it's like year 1, we're already sitting here like, what? Like, what is happening right now? I mean, the Pelicans, their rookie, he's already, I think, in the history book for the franchise. So it's just like, there's so many cool things happening right now, I think, in the league. You start to realize that, yes, there is going to be a shift now, like LeBron's getting to that point where he's just kind of like, all right, I'm here to continue to play the game I love. But I think he very much understands that these young guys are definitely, the ones that everyone is looking up to nowadays and looking at what they're going to see. We still look at LeBron. We still look at Steph. We still KD. We still see these guys and we're just like, they are the greats and we're still happy to see them play. But these young guys are giving them a run for their money. And it's been fun to watch.
Last question for me. I think the league over the last few years have taken some criticism, I think fairly unfairly, in terms of what the product is on the floor. But you're there covering this the Magic and on a day-to-day basis. What is kind of the top things do you think that fans should appreciate about the game of basketball more and pay attention to, as opposed to what they hear on kind of mainstream media in terms of bashing the game? Because you're watching this from a night-to-night basis, and you're seeing these players, care and improve and try to strive to move up the standings. What are some things that you think fans should be more appreciative of and just kind of pay attention to in terms of what they're seeing on the floor in particularly?
Defense is still alive. I think that you go into games nowadays and you're just you're leaving and the score is 140 to 150 or something outrageous, something crazy. And you're like, all right, was nothing ever, who was defending? I think that's still very much alive and well. I think you're seeing these young guys bring that a little bit more as well, too. So I think that's something, because you hear it all the time, let the players play. You hear defense doesn't exist anymore in the league and, they don't call it. I think, yes, I think where we're at now in basketball, what is it, the saying? The toothpaste is already out of the tube. So you already very much know that there are things that refs have to call nowadays just to protect your players. And I get that. And you can't take that back, because now we've already done it. And I think that kind of hurts, because people are like, well, now we're not going to see the level of defense that we've seen in the past, because now guys are going to just let them, make these threes from halfway. And you're just kind of you can't guard it. You can't do anything. So I think that's the one thing that I would say is defense still exists, guys. It's still happening. It's still alive and thriving. And yeah, that would be my big one.
Kendra, you mentioned the youth movement in the NBA, how skilled these rookies are, and we've got a lot of young superstar talent as well. Are you excited, and do you notice any trend of new rivalries being set in the NBA, given we're having that paradigm shift like Justin mentioned? I'll say first, we all know San Antonio and OKC this season has been just so awesome, those matchups. So and there's your case in point for there is still defense that you can watch in this league, no doubt. Any other rivalries or maybe just narratives kind of in their infancy that you're really excited about?
I don't know if I have any rivalries, but what I would say is the storyline I would look into are the Charlotte Hornets and the way that they've been playing lately. That's a storyline that I'm terrified to go into, because I'm just what do you mean you guys are good now? But that's one that I would look at, that I would keep an eye out for, because I think as they continue, I think if they have the guys that they have now, that's the thing too. I think what you saw with OKC is what a lot of teams are going to try to do, but it's hard. It's hard to do that. I think they're doing it I think the Magic are doing a good job of it. I think the Hornets are trying to do a good job of that. But what you saw with OKC and the way that they were able to build their young core to now be still one of the top teams, even with a couple losses that they've had, still be in contention, where you're they probably will be going also deep in the playoffs with the same people that they won with, I think speaks volumes of what teams are trying to do now. So that's one that I think is a really good team to look at. I'm trying to think of any rivalries. I personally, like I just mentioned, I don't mind seeing the rivalry between the Knicks and the Magic. I think that's great. Yes, I know Miami's down the street. Yes, I know that's supposed to be our rivalry. But the way that the Knicks and the Magic play against each other, it does feel like a playoff game every single time. And I think that's beautiful. Maybe that's a summer and winter, I don't know. We'll go with that. And then what's another team? And then I'm curious to see how Utah rebuilds. That's a team that I'm curious to see how they rebuild. They have some sneaky good guys that are gritty and they know how to play. They're a very young team as well. And the young core that they have, I think if they continue to do what they need to do of getting the guys and the pieces they want, I think Utah's also going to be a team that we're going to be talking about later on, because the way they play, they don't back down. They do not back down. And so I don't even know if they know how to back down. So that's one team too that I would look into of don't forget about them.
Yeah, that's a great one, especially considering the big what if that if Walker Kessler doesn't get hurt this season, that team looks very, very different
It does.
if he's on the court this season.
No, 1,000%. And I think that they just need a couple more pieces, need to figure out a little bit. That's also one of those things where they're a young team, but they're growing together. They're figuring out together. And I think that everyone, I think now, we all remember the day and age of like, got to get the superstars on the team. Now it's like, all right, we are seeing these young guys become superstars within their own team. We need to now rally around them, and we need to figure out how to make this young group like an OKC. Not saying that everyone needs to be an OKC, but they're pretty much, they showed you what could happen. So I think it's one of those things where these younger teams, I would not just count them out right now. I think that they are dangerous later on in the future.
No, completely agree. I mean, that's why I think it makes the league so exciting as compared to other decades where it's like, a lot of the teams that are at the bottom, they really have no hope. I think now it's not the case. I think there's a lot of like future potential, even the teams that are at the bottom of the conference as well. Kendra, thank you very much for the time. Truly appreciate you. Let our audience know where you can find you on social media, where they can catch your work and any other projects that you're up to as well.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. I think it's like Kendra.Douglas. And then social media is just Kendra Melinda. Things I'm working on getting through this season. I think that's what we're getting. I was able to finish up college football for ESPN, and that was amazing, and working on that. But now things that I'm focused on now is seeing the Magic continue to make a deep run in the playoffs. So that's like what I'm working on right now.
Kendra, thank you very much for the time. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.